We're now working in this tutorial on the vertical rectangle that's going to go into this space right here. It's going to take up these two high and it's going to go one across. So with gray, with my gray yarn, I'm going to pick up right here, and this is why it was important to mark the center section here. It wasn't as big a deal here because I knew my beginning point here. So I've double checked, and I know that, here we'll use this as a pointer, I know that this row right here below the stitch marker, that's pretty dark, let's see if I can get it up closer and you can see it a little better, that this row right here, this valley in between these two ridges can be counted as my 1. And then I can go 2, 3, 4, and so on down to 16, so that my 16 will happen right here in this one, right before this stitch marker. Then this right here, this is my 1. And then I pick up 16 across to the bottom. I put my, this is my last stitch right there, that right in between these two ridges. Then right here I would pick up my corner stitch, my center stitch, and then cast on my 16 going this other, cast on my 16 going this way. Then working it back and forth, I will go ahead and cast on those I will go ahead and cast on those stitches in gray, and then come back and check in with you when that's all done. Alright, so we had a few technical difficulties between the last time we just barely spoke, just seconds ago for you, and now for me, where I have worked up both of these squares. So I picked up along the edge, again making sure that I worked that, this worked all of these stitches, then forming the extra stitch for the corner, for the center stitch, marked the center stitch, had it follow up, added in this other color, wove in all the ends on the back, and have worked back and forth with this being this moving over from taking it out of that center stitch there and placing on my right needle, then just slipping it as I work these back and forth. So now we're at the very, very last row. I've just worked my very last right side row that I'm going to be working. And this this orientation of this rectangle is a little bit different because of how these stitches are formed in the order that they're worked in. If I would just work these back and do knit stitches all the way across the back, so do the wrong side rows knit stitches like I am scheduled to do at this moment, then I'll end up with purl stitches, but I'll have these 3 stitches unworked and my yarn will be over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of a trick. I am going to turn my work over and I'm going to work these 3 stitches as knit stitches. Now, instead of going back across, I'm going to turn my work back around to the right side, and I'm going to work this decrease, slipping those 2 as if to knit 2 together, knitting 1 and passing these 2 stitches over. So I'm doing that right now. Then I'm going to take my center stitch marker and I'm going to move it up to the top. In through that stitch. Now I'm going to pull that pretty tight because I just in the process of working it's going to loosen up, and I don't want a big gappy stitch there. I'm going to take this off and this stitch marker off, and I'm going to work these 16 stitches until I get to the end of the row. Now, two things need to happen when I get to the end of the row. I'm going to put a stitch marker in this very last stitch, and I'm going to slip all of these stitches onto the stitch holder that I have over here. Whoops, split the play. Okay. All right. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So these stitch markers will be held, or these stitches will be held on this stitch marker, and as you can see now I have all purl stitches facing me, and so I'm ready to pick these up, and then I won't have a double row of knitting. So this garter edge is still nicely taken care of. You can see that this will continue to give when I pick up these stitches to form my border, or the next square, or whatever I need to do, that these will then become knit stitches, and instead of already being knit stitches, and then we'll have a double row of knit stitches which would possibly draw the eye to that location. So working this in this way until I'm ready to work whatever's going to go here. In this case, a border is going to, leaving them on the stitch markers is going to just hold them until I'm ready to work them. All right. So I am going to go ahead and work the next two squares before the next tutorial in this series. I'm going to work this square and this square. Again, picking up the gray, making sure I have my center stitch, picking up, and then for here I will have another set of stitches here, so then I'll pick up across, work the gray, then the color, and then we will talk again about what happens to this sample to finish it off on these open edges. All right, thank you for joining me. I hope you found value in this tutorial. If you have, please consider a one-time payment via PayPal or a regular subscription via Patreon. The links are down below and they are on the screen. Again, thank you for joining me. See you next time.